chosen ones. Listen closely, for the frequency of waiting has been officially decommissioned. The universe does not issue warnings. It builds patterns in the silence of the background. If you are reading this today, you have intercepted the signal before the mass market realization. The upcoming new moon on March 19th is not a standalone lunar phase. It is the opening move of a high-magnitude sequence that will not fully manifest its primary objective until April. Right now, behind the veil of normalcy, a rare planetary configuration is already being welded into the architecture of your reality. The most significant error of the unawakened is the belief that energy only activates at the moment of alignment. In a high-fidelity system, the preload is where the actual shift occurs. A rare configuration is currently assembling behind the scenes. This is the ghost in the machine, the influence you feel but cannot yet categorize. Tomorrow's new moon is the tactical launchpad for an event chain scheduled for next month. You are currently standing in the ignition sequence. Because you are identifying the pattern today, you are operating with a 24-hour tactical advantage. Your internal systems are already calibrating to the new frequency, while others are still processing the old data. The real shift is not coming. It is already here, vibrating beneath the surface of your current routines. You are tasked with observing the subtle glitches in the standard narrative today. These are the indicators of the new pattern overriding the old code. Pay attention to the thoughts and impulses that feel new or out of place today. These are the early data packets for the April objective. Stop looking at the obvious events. Watch the way the background of your life is rearranging itself. Do not rush to define the outcome. The new moon is the opening move, not the final verdict. Maintain your sovereign observation as the pattern hardens into reality. The dam hasn't just cracked, the water is already moving through the soil. Tomorrow is merely the day the world hears the sound. By acknowledging the shift today, you are no longer a subject of the cycle, you are the observer of the inception. Chosen ones, lean in and listen with the precision of your higher self. We have officially entered a 30-day critical window, the narrow bridge between this new moon and the massive April alignment. To the unawakened, this month will look like a wait-and-see period. But for you, the 144,000, this is the season of compression. The universe is not pausing, it is winding the spring. Right now, you might feel like nothing is happening. Conversations seem to stall, decisions are still forming, and the momentum feels thick, almost heavy. Do not be deceived. This is not a delay, this is density. Think of it as hydraulic pressure. The great architect is not spreading your energy thin. He's concentrating it into a tighter and tighter space. This stillness is the blue hour before the release. What feels like nothing right now is actually the phase where your future is being positioned with surgical accuracy. Once this pressure releases in April, the flexibility of today will vanish. You are currently in the only window where you can still adjust your aim. Hear me clearly. This alignment does not hit everyone the same way. It is targeted frequency. If you have been sitting on a decision, waiting for a sign, the walls are beginning to close in. The option to wait and see is being deleted from your reality. Not out of malice, but because your soul can no longer breathe in that stagnant air. If you have been working in the shadows, planting seeds, writing plans, shifting your inner world, the universe is about to force your visibility. You may not feel ready, but the timing is moving you into the light regardless. Those who move before they feel ready will ride this 30-day cycle like a tidal wave. This alignment doesn't reward perfection, it responds to movement. The new moon we just experienced is the planting. Whether you did it consciously or not, a seed was placed in the soil of your life today. By the time we reach the April alignment, that seed will no longer be optional. It will have broken the surface, and its first real test will begin. The difference between those who thrive in April and those who are overwhelmed is what is happening right now. The ones who understand the pattern are quietly locking things in, making the hard calls and choosing their lane, while the matrix is still distracted by the silence. The compression is active, like this transmission right now, to signal to the universe that you recognize the pressure and you are ready to use it. Subscribe and turn on the bell. This 30-day countdown to April is the most volatile window of 2026. This channel is your daily synchronization. In the comments below, type "locked in" to anchor your intent. What is the one decision you are no longer delaying? If this channel has helped you see the invisible momentum beneath the quiet surface, you can support me with a cup of coffee, because every seed you release becomes a river that reaches souls you may never meet. The donation link is waiting for you in the description, pinned in the comments and shown as a QR code in this video. Your support is a powerful, energetic signature, confirming your mastery over the laws of timing. The stillness is not empty, it is full of your future. Stop waiting for the explosion and start mastering the pressure. The window is narrowing, chosen one. Choose your direction before the release chooses it for you. Now, let us delve into the nuance that most people fail to notice, because it lacks the immediate roar of a cinematic climax. At first glance, this period seems quiet, perhaps even unremarkable, but in truth, we are entering one of the most strategically favorable windows of the entire calendar year. To navigate it correctly is to master the art of temporal momentum. From this current new moon through the major celestial alignment in April, a very specific and rare phenomenon occurs. The temporal lag between cause and effect begins to evaporate. Normally, the universe operates with a built-in delay. You exert effort, you pour in your energy, and you wait, sometimes for weeks or months, before the world reflects that effort back to you. But inside this specific window, that gap is tightening into a vacuum. Your actions are starting to echo back with startling speed. Every decision you make carries an immediate consequence, and every movement you initiate generates a response without the usual friction of time. This changes the entire chemistry of your progress, because when that gap closes, building momentum becomes an exercise in fluidity rather than brute force. Tasks that once felt like you were dragging a heavy stone uphill suddenly begin to gain their own gravity, pulling themselves forward. Stalled conversations and postponed opportunities suddenly find their natural rhythm, reappearing in your life without you having to manipulate or force them into existence. It is not that life has become effortless, it is that your effort is finally working with maximum efficiency. While some seasons demand the quiet grace of patience, this particular stretch of time rewards the bold move. This is why this window is so critical. It is not a passive phase for idle reflection or sitting on the sidelines waiting for a sign. In this environment, clarity is not found through thinking. Clarity is forged through action. The more direct and honest you are, the faster the environment responds to your frequency. For those who have been working in the shadows or building something quietly, this is the moment where the gears finally mesh. It is not that a miracle has appeared out of thin air, but rather that everything you have already put in motion has finally found the friction-free environment it needs to accelerate. At the same time, this window is doing more than just opening doors to the future. It is acting as a high-intensity spotlight on the things that have been hidden beneath the surface of your consciousness for far too long. It reveals the truth in a way that is impossible to look away from. This is not a spiritual test of your ability to maintain a positive attitude or a challenge to see how many affirmations you can recite. It is much more visceral than that. It is an audit of your integrity, a test of whether the life you are currently leading is an actual reflection of the values you claim to hold. This kind of alignment removes the buffer zone between your thoughts, your words, and your tangible reality. When that buffer disappears, the truth becomes blindingly clear in an instant. If you have been half-heartedly saying yes to obligations or people that drain your spirit, the resulting tension will become an unbearable weight. If you have been procrastinating on a decision that your soul has already made, that hesitation will begin to feel like a physical ailment. You will find that waiting for the perfect time or for a permission slip that was never going to arrive starts to feel utterly futile. This pressure is not coming from an external force trying to break you. It is coming from your own internal evolution, realizing that it no longer makes sense to stay small. This phase is not about transforming into a stranger. It is about the radical act of stopping the behaviors that were never true to you in the first place. That is the source of the heat. Once you see the disconnect, you cannot unsee it. You lose the luxury of self-deception. You can no longer pretend that your old patterns are comfortable when they are clearly suffocating you. This clarity does not seek to destroy your life, but it does seek to destroy your ability to lie to yourself about it. Those who face this truth head-on will find themselves catapulted forward during this period. Those who try to cling to the illusion of safety will feel a mounting pressure, a vague sense of being squeezed by life without understanding why. This is not a time for comfort. It is a time for alignment in the most literal, mechanical sense. Your actions, your direction, and your reality are being forced into a single line, whether you feel prepared for it or not. Once this process of synchronization begins, it does not pause for your doubt. The space between this new moon and the April alignment is not just a passage of time. It is a high-speed bridge. How you choose to carry yourself across it will dictate exactly what kind of reality you step into on the other side. Most people approach these cycles with a passive mindset. They watch the clock, they observe the changes, they think things through, and they tell themselves they will take the leap once the path is perfectly illuminated. But this specific stretch of time does not respond to the observer. It responds to the participant. Even the smallest, most deliberate movements made right now carry a weight and a significance far beyond their usual scale, because the timing is no longer neutral. This is a compounding window. Your actions do not just sit where you leave them, they begin to stack and multiply. A single decision made today does not remain isolated, it triggers a domino effect that shapes the next 10 decisions. Before long, you aren't just taking steps, you are being carried by the sheer velocity of what you have set in motion. Small moves, when timed correctly, cease to be small. They become the foundation of a new trajectory. This is why the bridge is so vital. You do not need to overhaul your entire existence overnight or force a massive revolution. You simply need to be fiercely intentional about what you are moving toward and, more importantly, what you are choosing to leave behind. Both your progress and your baggage will be amplified by this current. If you focus your energy on what truly matters, you will see it gain traction with breathtaking speed. If you continue to invest in misaligned habits, that weight will follow you just as fast, becoming an anchor you can no longer ignore. The universe isn't judging your choices during this time, it is simply amplifying them. This is why this period feels so distinct. In normal times, you can drift or hesitate without immediate penalty. But on this bridge, the feedback loop is instantaneous. You get to see the destination you are heading toward much earlier than usual, which is a massive strategic advantage if you are paying attention. This is one of those rare moments where the quality of your direction matters infinitely more than the speed of your travel. You don't need to sprint, but you do need to be certain. You don't need to have every answer, but you must stop moving in directions that you already know are dead ends. The bridge doesn't demand that you be perfect, it only demands that you be honest. The reason this matters so deeply is that by the time we reach the climax of the alignment in April, you won't be starting from a standstill. You will be arriving with a massive amount of momentum already at your back. Whatever you have built, shifted, or decided during this bridge is already in flight, shaping the events that have yet to occur. When people discuss the upcoming April alignment, they usually obsess over the peak date. They circle it on their calendars and wait for it like a grand finale, believing that is when the magic happens. But the reality is that by the time the alignment is visible to the world, the most important work has already been completed. This is not a series of disconnected events. The March new moon and the April alignment are two halves of the same pulse. One initiates the sequence, and the other reveals what the sequence has produced. If you only look at the end result, you miss the crucial stage where the destiny was actually forged. By the time we hit the window of April 18th to the 23rd, things won't feel like a beginning. They will feel like an arrival. Situations will have reached a point of crystallization where they are much harder to alter. Momentum will be established. Outcomes will begin to manifest in a way that feels solid and fixed rather than flexible. For those who use this bridge wisely, that feeling will be one of profound excitement and harvest. For those who waited, it may feel overwhelming or restrictive. But in both scenarios, the origin point wasn't April. It was here. It was this moment, right now, while things were still adjustable and open to your influence. This is where the path was carved before the world could see the road. By the time a change becomes obvious to everyone else, it has already been decided in the quiet moments of this window. Understanding this timing changes everything because it allows you to stop reacting to the world and start shaping it. One of the most subtle and often misunderstood reactions to this shift is not clarity, but a deep, visceral resistance. This resistance doesn't always look like a dramatic fight. Often, it looks like a desperate attempt to cling to things that have already lost their spark. You might notice a strange sensation within yourself or in those around you, something that was once a pillar of your identity or a major source of interest suddenly feels hollow, flat, or exhausting to maintain. Instead of seeing this as a sign of growth, our survival instinct tells us to push harder, to try and manufacture the old passion, to force the same level of attachment. But this is where the real struggle lies. When something naturally begins to lose its pull during a cycle like this, it isn't a mistake. It's not that you are losing your drive or that something is broken. It is a signal that your internal frequency has already moved past that point, even if your logical mind hasn't accepted the promotion yet. Trying to force yourself back into an old version of your life doesn't bring back the magic. It only creates friction and exhaustion. The moment you have to convince yourself to care about something you've outgrown, the alignment is already gone. This is why many will feel a sense of unexplained frustration right now. They go back to the familiar only to find the door is locked or the room is empty. Conversations feel slightly out of sync. Interests that used to consume your time now feel like chores. If you misinterpret this as a failure, you will double down and try to rebuild a ghost. But the more you push against the current of your own growth, the more life will push back. The shift didn't just start. For many of you, it has already happened. This period is simply removing the illusion that you can return to the past. It exposes the places where you have expanded beyond your old containers. Growth rarely feels like a victory lap in the beginning. It usually feels like the uncomfortable process of losing interest in the things that used to define you. Fighting this is counterproductive because you are fighting against the direction of your own evolution. The pattern is set, the pull has changed. Your only real choice is to move with the new current or be exhausted by the old one. Those who let go experience this time as a breakthrough into clarity. Those who cling experience it as a breakdown into frustration. It is the same shift, but the outcome is determined by your willingness to let what is changing actually change. When we talk about a cosmic alignment, it's easy to imagine a sudden, jarring snap, like a bone being set back into place. But these patterns are much more organic. Nothing in the architecture of the universe jumps from chaos to perfection in a single second. It is a gradual tightening, a slow lean toward a center point. We are currently in that leaning phase. It's the part that is easy to ignore because there are no sirens or flashing lights. Yet, beneath the surface of your daily life, the entire system is reorganizing itself. It is a rehearsal of the highest order, not a practice run that might fail, but a deliberate preparation where every move you make is training you for the reality that is about to lock into place. Every small adjustment you make in your habits, your boundaries, and your focus is a part of a sequence building toward a visible conclusion. The lean itself carries a profound meaning because the moment you start tilting in a new direction, the destination is already being woven into your timeline. This is why the atmosphere feels so heavy with potential right now, even if you can't quite put words to it. I want you to know that if you are still here, still paying attention, I truly value your presence in this space. This isn't about chasing a high or over-analyzing every second of your day. You don't need to be perfect, and you don't need to rush. This is simply about being awake while the cement is still wet. Right now, your life is still flexible. It is still responding to the touch of your intent. By staying aware during this window, you are already miles ahead of the crowd who will only start reacting once the cement has hardened in April. Take this understanding with you. Trust that the intentional moves you make in this quiet moment will meet you again very soon, transformed into a reality you will recognize as your own.